This is a demonstration of my Gottoms Frogs deck. I have a demonstration already on this channel, but I learned by reading cards that I was doing it wrong. I was cheating. So we're going to do it with Frog, which you'll see. This is a lot easier to understand than my combo, and I think me explaining is going to help as well. So we're just going to fast forward through this whole thing, and I'm probably going to talk pretty quick. So 1-for-1 using Fishborg is really good. This is insane DD Crow protection. Getting that Substode is just insane. So we're sending all the frogs, and look, I have Frog right there. We're going to do the regular... this is a little different than the regular collapse because I have too many good cards in my hand I don't want to discard. So you do the bare minimum poison draw loop. And you save your extra normal in case you draw a poison draw frog, which I think I'm about to draw here. Yeah, so I use the extra normal right away. This is the big expand you want to do to accordion out. You make all the poison draws, and then you get all the swap frogs to get them out of your deck. Getting rid of all your useless cards in your hand. Pot of Avarice is perfect. Swap frog is in play, so the 5 you send back are the other 5 pieces of the 6-card draw combo. Hey, you didn't draw any of them, that's perfect. It's really good to get a Thunder Dragon, and we already have 2 Exodia, so there's no way this hand isn't comboing. Again, I still have a poison draw in deck, but I like to end on a poison draw, and I think it's worth the gamble. You just need to get the Fishborg Blaster out, so when you summon Exodius, it doesn't send itself. So it sucks having to send back a Fishborg. So I guess at this point they could DD Crow you, but you could also reset your board and just make a dupe block if you had to. Yeah, and that's just me doing a little shortcut with Thunder Dragon. I was supposed to shuffle, but I just drew them. And yeah, this is part of the pre-combo. And that's it. So you can see I didn't have to draw my entire deck. That's the real big benefit of using Frog instead of using Gashilnadon. So before, when I was cheating using Gashilnadon, I had to get 3 cards of card advantage just to get the level 5 non-tuner. And then I had to use 2 more cards of card advantage, all discarding the Fishborg, to get the Stardust. So Stardust cost 5 cards. That's, a whole opening hand for Stardust. Now it only costs 3 cards, so I don't have to draw every single +1 in my deck to make this work. Once I have the pieces, I can stop. And the pieces are enough card advantage, Exodius, and Thunder Dragon. You don't even need the Thunder Dragon. Like here, I discard the Murray of Greed. I could have discarded the Thunder Dragon, and next turn, once the second part of the quote unquote FTK begins, you just don't +1, and you'll see that in a sec. I'll explain when we get there. But yeah, so far the Frog change is easier. I don't have to draw I drew half my deck, just because I happened to get some of the combo pieces early. I could have drawn the whole deck. I definitely had enough gas to do it. But also it would have been more resilient, because I can just, if I don't have the gas, I can still make like a Goyo or Brionac or a Stardust or Colossal a lot easier. So I think we're going to go ahead and... Yeah, so what you want to do is you want to flip up the Imperial Iron Wall at the end of your opponent's turn, because this could be a Dark Bribe or a Solemn Warning. You assume they don't break your board. Depending on what they do, obviously this is perfect. This is assuming they set a Raikou in 2 back row or something. Something passive. There's lots of ways people can try to break it, but usually they have to commit a lot of resources to try to break it. And you have some gas. Even if... top deck and salvage, having spells still in my deck is nice. So it's if they could have broke the entire board and gotten rid of the wall too, it's I still had some plays because I could get back a Substitoad and do some big stuff. So it's not necessarily a lose if they can break it, but odds are they won't. It's pretty hard. So we're going to sack the flip-flop for Unifrog, attack into the imaginary back row that they probably have. If they have exactly 1 back row, this is still correct, I think. It's annoying. You only have to do the Gottoms loop if they put face-down spell and traps. If they don't, you can just make a bunch of big monsters and swing for game. If you're not afraid of Tragodia, Gores, or Battle Fader and all that stuff. But yeah, if they have back row, you just want to go ahead and poke with the Unifrog. You have Stardust to back you up. Deep Prison doesn't work because of Imperial Iron Wall. This is incorrect. I attack with Substitoad. You shouldn't do that, because if they have a Book of Moon, you want to just be able to flip it back up main phase 2. So just don't attack with it. It's never correct. But yeah, Swap Frog, we're going to send something. We're just trying to clear the board. Maintain card advantage because we're going to have to discard them. It just saves steps later. So this is the beginning of the loop. I think I'm about to say it here. This is an infinite draw loop. You have the Thunder Dragon, Exodius, Swap Frog to return it, and space to pull the Fishborg out. So if they still have back row and you choose to go for it, you want to keep Stardust the whole time, because they have a torrential they couldn't activate, right? But so we're going to be here for a while. We're going to do this entire loop. um, 17 more times. But luckily we get to fast forward. When I'm doing this in person, I have like little hand shortcuts, and you can kind of explain it away. My hope is you can see this is a clear demonstration of exactly, like, it's a perfect little draw loop. It's not that many steps. Everything's open information. So if they want you to play out your combo, I feel like you should at least be able to shortcut this step. You will draw your entire deck, and you will, like, on the last step of the combo, when you have 0 cards in deck, you're going to summon Exodius, putting back Thunder Dragon, Swap Frog, and Poison Draw. You have the Thunder Dragon in hand, so you pull both those Thunder Dragons right away. So when you're done with your combo, you've drawn every card in your deck, you'll know that you have exactly a Swap Frog and a Poison Draw as your last 2 cards. And that just gives you gas to do stuff. My original combo was like, okay, well, where do I go from here? And that's when I made the Gashildodons, when clearly that's not correct. So once you're down to your 0 cards of your deck, the last thing you want to do, instead of, see, the loop is infinite because I'm discarding Thunder Dragons every time. That's how I get +1. Discard Thunder Dragon for Fishborg to get it out of the way, and then when I draw with the loop, I'm thinning my deck by 1 every time. If you don't have the Thunder Dragon, if you chose to discard it, this would be a lot more painstaking, but you have 3 Thunder Dragons in your deck. So you would just be cycling through your deck instead of drawing +1 through your deck until you hit the Thunder Dragon, and then you draw your deck. So it's still infinite. If you don't have Thunder Dragon, and you just still have all 3 copies. But yeah, so on your last step, when you have 0 cards, we'll get there in a sec. Here, every single time you're discarding Thunder Dragon, and you just make sure you have the Fishborg in play, otherwise you can't mess it up. Sometimes you can mess up with Swap Frog. He's already used his effect, but you always have another one in the deck, so you actually can't really mess it up. But yeah, the very last card you discard is going to be Death Frog, because you need that to make the Brionac, which is important because you need the Brionac to clear their board if there's anything else left, but it's also necessary to make the Urbellum, which we'll see in a second. So we're almost there, so we get a little lull. Okay, so one more draw after this. So you have 3 cards. We know exactly. Poison Draw, boom, draw last card, bam. Okay, so here we discard the Death Frog. Send everything back just like normal. But instead of the Poison Draw and the swap, we're sending back a Death Frog and a swap, and we're going to go ahead and make a Brionac. So here I'm just imagining they have 4 cards. It could have been 20 cards. I mean, I guess it couldn't because there's only so many slots. But you know, worst case scenario, they had a bunch of stuff, and Stardust was protecting me, right? If they had enough, I might just stick to the control game and just keep on poking with Unifrogs every turn. It just depends on how you're feeling. Sometimes you want to go for the game, but Stardust does cover a lot of bases, and anything that Stardust doesn't cover, Imperion Wall is actually pretty good against, so they kind of work really well together. We went a little farther than I wanted to, but here we made the Brionac with our Death Frog and Fishborg Blaster. Then once we discard the cards to bounce, we use another Fishborg Blaster to get Urbellum. And since we've hit our whole deck, at any point, one of those discards for Fishborg, you wanted to go ahead and discard the Plaguespreader. We haven't used our normal summon, so you could have normal summoned it too, but normal summon's nice in case you mess up with Swap Frog or something. You can normal summon Swap Frog to get your Exodius back. But that shouldn't happen, but it's possible. So yeah, we have Plague, and Plague goes back to the grave because of Imperion Wall, so you're just going to go ahead and top deck anything to... maybe it would have been wise to put a Swap Frog in case I mess up or forget to return or something, but you use Urbellum as your Earth non-tuner for Gottoms, and use Plaguespreader. That's the only reason Plaguespreader is in here. So my earlier demonstration, I had to do some crazy stuff with Plague because I messed up, but Plague is good, but it only has to be in here for this play to make the Gottoms. So from here, we're back to looping. I like to do the draw loop again. It's actually easier for me usually. My old version of this deck, I would just draw after every time. Let's do an Urbellum sack, and then put everything back, draw loop, draw loop, draw loop. But I learned here, like with the poison draw, it's not really necessary. So yeah, this first wave, I go ahead and do a draw loop because I discarded a Brionac. Like, let's just get everything back. It's just cleaner. The way we're going to do this for the Gottoms loop is we're going to be discarding cards. We're going to be discarding Thunder Dragons and using Exodius to maintain card advantage as much as possible. It just saves steps, fewer draw loops. And you have to bring the Fishborg out anyway, and you have to bring something out to sack for Death Frog anyway. So you might as well just like efficiently maintain card advantage. So here we're gonna keep drawing, and then again when we're down to 0 cards, We're going to discard this Death Frog to repeat as if this Gottoms was Stardust is basically it. So I think we have one more step. Alright, so here we discard the Death Frog. Make sure the 3 monsters are out. Return everything. And now we're cruising. So Brionac, discard. Urbellum, sack to discard. And this is a loop. So every single time you want to discard frogs, because you have this huge hand, eventually you'll have to end your turn. In this case, because we already used our battle phase. So you just go ahead and discard frogs. I think you have to discard 2 frogs beyond Thunder Dragon. So you're going to maintain Thunder Dragons with your Exodius loop. But otherwise you're just discarding frogs. So you want to get all the frogs back in your deck anyway. So you're going to end the combo with an Exodius. And sending all your frogs back, which you're slowly doing now. And once you have your stable board that you try to return back to, you're going to have Duplock, but instead of a flip-flop frog, you're going to have a Gottoms. So yeah, we're just looping. It's pretty straightforward. And if this is moving a little fast, you can always pause. That's why I wanted to make a video demonstrating every single step without shortcuts. So you can just look at it. And there's the Urbellum. That's discard number 4. But yeah, see, like I have almost no frogs in my hand. It was just exactly what you want. And once I think I discard 6 cards. It's like a fictionally large number, but it's just to show like, hey, this is infinite. Again, like you're shrinking your hand right now. It's just efficient to play that way. It just saves time. But you could just repeat the infinite draw loop, and as you discard spells, your maximum hand size decreases. But it's neither here nor there. So I think that's the last discard I do, and then now we want to reset and go back to a Stardust. Again, you could do the whole draw loop and then discard a Death Frog and do it that way, but I'm trying to discard my hand anyway. So we already have the frogs in there, so we just go ahead and make the Stardust that way. And then Duplock. So yeah, and because I didn't have to use every single spell to make my combo work, I get to do this. If they have a Trap Dust Shoot, if they top deck a Trap Dust Shoot, it doesn't stop you. I mean, it wouldn't, because they would have 0 cards, you'd OTK them. Or I guess it wouldn't be. It depends. But Trap Dust Shoot wouldn't get you here because you have 2 Exodius, which isn't always possible. Sometimes most of the time you're on your last Exodius, but now with the Death Frog as an extender instead of the cheating Gashilnadon, you don't have to dig as deep. You don't need every single drop of +1s in your deck. Before, I could afford to go 1 or 2 -1s. Now I can probably use about half of my +1s in combo. So this is just a better version of the deck. I'm sure if I had more time, this is where I would have settled anyway. So the difference of this board is it's the same. This is open information, so that kind of sucks. But again, they have nothing. They're top decking. If you don't attack with a Substode, you put it in defense because you're done. Doesn't matter. And then if they keep the hard card in hand, you can discard the Gottoms, sack the Gottoms. And if they set a monster, then you can make the Brionac and bounce the monster. If they set a back row, you can get your Unifrog and pop the back row. And yeah, that's how you can grind it out. I think that's it. Please comment, like, and subscribe.